Hello and welcome to, it's Tuesday. It's been, 3 days since the Leeds game. I'm joined by Joe Sansom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, 2 defeats in two, 3 goals scored for Fulham. Uh, how do you assess that so far?
It's not a great start, is it? I mean, two defeats is never going to be good, but I do think it's been two tough games.
Mm,
I think a lot of teams will go to Leeds and struggle. I don't think they're God's gift to football,
mm.
as BT Sport were making out, but I do think that a few teams will struggle there. Um, I don't think we played terribly on Saturday, to be honest with you. I think that the problem was that our defence is still Championship standard. And I think you saw that, especially in the 15-minute spell before and after half time when we conceded 3 of the 4 goals. It's just schoolboy defending,
Mm.
and I think that's why. And obviously, we'll come on to it. We're getting linked to a lot of defenders because we've needed them before the Arsenal game. Now we definitely need them before the Villa game. If you never know what could have happened if we'd have had a strong centre half. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's anything to get like the alarm bells going just yet, because I don't think it's been anywhere near as worrying as a lot of pundits and neutrals are making out, such as people saying, like Chris Sutton saying, "Oh, Fulham are down already." We're not. We are 18th, and there's 2 games played.
Yeah.
Not everyone has even played the full round of fixtures, so I think everyone just needs to calm down a little bit. There's plenty of time to get points.
What I've learned quickly about being in the Premier League is people on the radio and on the TV would like to say irrational things to sensationalize things and create headlines and talking points and comments and reaction. It's all very, very boring. Um, we follow this club, closely, and we know that after 2 games, we're not going to judge the season, especially when we play teams like Arsenal and Leeds, who have started well. To be fair to them, albeit they're only on 3 points, we're only 3 points behind them. Um, we're lucky enough to have our next Premier League game on Monday, so it gives us some time. But before we go into this video is almost a look back at Leeds, and then there's some transfer rumours that we can talk about because it all went a little bit quiet in the last week. Joe, before we move on to the transfers, we have to talk about one man. Andre Frank, Zambo Anguissa, with an absolute masterclass in the midfield. I know we didn't win the game, but I mean, it was so promising. So promising the way he held the ball, the way he shrugged off men for the goal against for Bobby Decordova-Reid. It was Calvin Phillips, England international Calvin Phillips, and he just brushed him aside and played the ball through. How impressed were you with the man, Andre Frank?
So impressed. Like, best name in football, best player in football, just absolute Rolls Royce of a midfielder. Really reminds me, I saw someone point out on Twitter, quite similar to Moussa Dembele, the Belgian one,
Mm-hmm.
in the way he plays, how physical he is in midfield. And I really thought that he was the best player on the pitch on Saturday, regardless of the result. I thought that 4-1, let alone 4-3. I thought that he really made Phillips very isolated. I thought that he bullied him for a lot of the game. And even though a lot of people say he's just our sort of box-to-box midfielder, I thought for a lot of it he was one of our big attacking threats. He was carrying the ball forward well. There was a few really nice turns in there, just
Mm-hmm.
leaving people for dead. And I just thought it was nice to see him with the potential that a lot of people knew that he had. And he showed it at Villarreal, and he showed it a little bit at the end of our Premier League season in 2018-19. And I hope that he stays and is the linchpin of our midfield. It seems like everyone wants him to stay. It seems like Parker wants him to stay, and it seems like Tony Khan, with his true or false games that have gone on hold briefly, is hinting that he will stay. So I think him next to Reed, and then an attacking midfielder in addition to them, whether it's Kearney, whether it's Onoma, whether it's even Bobby Reed, who came on and did very well. I think that's a brilliant midfield three.
It's exciting, and I think it's the most positive I've felt after 2 defeats at the start of the season. And people are still going to comment and say Fulham are still going down. I just want to see, even if we do go down, I just want to see signs that the club is going somewhere in terms of we're bringing in players and we're playing a good system. We're sticking to a system, and we can actually stick with a manager this season. That's what I want to see. And Parker signing the contract in just before the season started is all good signs towards that. we could sit here for 20 minutes and talk about the Leeds game and how upset we are and how frustrating it is to concede another 4 goals. But we're not going to do that. We're going to move on to some transfer rumours. But just before I do that, Alexander Mitrovic got us off the mark. Our first goal back in the Premier League in 2018 and our first goal back in the Premier League in 2020, this time from the penalty spot. And then, of course, that header to make it 4-3. Good to see him score, because it would have been worrying if he went 2 or 3 games without a goal, especially when he scored against Ipswich as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been very clear that a lot of people, including us, have been worried where our goals coming from other than Mitrovic. We don't need to worry about that too much if he is scoring as he is at the moment. The second goal was a great cross by Tete, who I actually thought had a really good debut. I thought he was caught out of position a couple of times, but I think that might have been to do with the way we were trying to chase the game. And I don't think Hector did a brilliant job of covering him in what wasn't his best game. But I think it's gone a bit unnoticed how on Leeds' left-hand side, nothing really came through there. I know a couple of the goals ended up coming from that area, but the actual left winger, Harrison, was completely pocketed by Tete, and he really kept him out of the game. And it was only a few lapses in concentration when we were trying to break away where goals ended up coming from that side, rather than any actual mistakes from Tete. So I think that was positive to see. But yeah, it was also good to see Reed get a goal, because a lot of people, especially after the Ipswich game, where he missed quite a good chance, for thinking, he's not really up to the standard. I was seeing things like send him out on loan. And some of that might be fair. He might not be a Premier League quality player, but he certainly did look like one when he came on Saturday, because he completely changed the game.
Yeah, it's good to see him score, especially when people were doubting him at the beginning of the season. I'm guessing you're looking at your phone as well, because you've just got a message. Well, we're going to talk about this man in a second. Marlon from Sassuolo in Serie A. It's pretty much a done deal, barring a medical. I don't think he's in England. I don't think he's nearly on his way to England or anything. Maybe the next 24 hours or so. He's a centre-back, former of Barcelona. Apparently Barcelona get about £6.2 million from the deal. If he goes to us, it's reported around 13 to 15 million euros. Joe, I don't really care about the fee, because I said in my match reaction that if we go and splash 20, 30 million on a couple of centre-backs, I'm happy, because we haven't spent that much this summer, and especially compared to the likes of Aston Villa and Leeds United, who look like they're going to spend a bit more as well. Marlon, don't know much about him. We're not going to sit here and pretend, but if we were to sign Marlon and Ben Mee, we'd have a back two of Marlon and me. Make of that what you will. Make of that what you will.
I mean, that would be a great partnership.
Owen Wilson.
I mean, Marlon. We were saying before we started this that Iniesta came out with a quote from when Marlon was playing for Barcelona about 3 years ago. I think the quote was from about 2017. He only made a few appearances for Barcelona, but Iniesta basically said he's in with the first team because he's good enough. And if you're good enough to play for Barcelona, then I think there's something there. A lot of people have been saying, yeah, he's a great ball-playing centre-back, but how good is he at defending? The truth is we don't really know, because he didn't play in Italy at a team that was very good at defending, despite they finished in 8th position last season. They conceded quite a lot of goals. Whether that's down to the attacking system that they play, we don't know. But he's been highly rated at Barcelona. They saw him as good enough to even include a clause where they actually had first refusal on any bids, and they could match the bid. I think they've chosen not to, considering it's close. And the reason that the fee seems so high is because we've got to pay Barcelona some of the money due to that clause. I think it's like 50% Sassuolo, so I probably butchered the pronunciation, and 50% to Barcelona. And to be honest, we need a ball-playing centre-back, because we're not going to suddenly change the way we play. I would much rather have a defender that is just a defender through and through, but for the way we play, that's just not likely. And I imagine that he is an upgrade on what we've got, because what we've got at the moment isn't good enough. And whether he's been brought in to partner Hector, or whether he's been brought in to replace him and Hector moves over to the left, is yet to be seen. But I doubt he'll be the only centre-back we bring in if we get him. Yeah,
the rumours started to fly this morning, especially between Sunday, what day is it today? Tuesday. Between Monday and Tuesday, it was really starting to to pop off. And I woke up to the news that we're still linked with Terence Congolo. Now, this deal was talked about before in the summer, but because of his long-term injury he sustained while at Fulham in that freak off the train accident he got, he kind of got an injury at Blackburn, went off and then made it worse coming off the train, whatever. It's very Alfie Mawson and his right boot or whatever it was. Well, he's been linked again with the club, and apparently it's a fee. He's worth about 17 million. I don't know how much we're going to pay for him. But Joe, can you shed any more light on this deal?
Yeah, well, there's an article from the Telegraph, which is you have to be a subscriber, but we've had a look at it. Got the free trial just for this video, and it's John Percy, who's a very reliable journalist, and he's basically said that Scott Parker's still interested in getting Congolo, and it wouldn't surprise me, because if Scott Parker liked him in January, why wouldn't he like him now? He's a left-sided centre half that can also play at left back. He is good quality. The only problem is he is injured still and he's returning to match fitness. But I'm sure he'd be open to the move. He's wanted to move here before. The loan deal didn't have an option last time, but it's an interesting one. I feel like we'll sign Congolo purely because it was basically already done in January. It didn't quite work out because of the injury at Blackburn and then Euston. So I don't see why it wouldn't happen. The problem is that he, according to rumours, wouldn't be fit until at least the Sheffield United game, which is not really ideal. And that's what makes me think that he might be a sort of backup for if we don't get someone over the line before then. We've been linked with Craig Dawson, we've been linked with Juan Foyth, Bremer. We've been linked with quite a few centre-backs, as we should be. But it's an interesting one. I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think the centre-back situation will rumble on. Hopefully we get one in. Hopefully we get Marlon in before Monday night against Aston Villa. One player we have talked about before is Ademola Lookman. Now, Sky today picked up the story. It went quiet. I remember talking about it with you a few weeks ago. Went quiet, went dead. No one was talking about it, and then suddenly it perked up again yesterday. Some people don't like it. Some people like it. Look, it's a loan with an option, I think, which is for me one of my favourite transfer deals. Like I said in this video before, he did it. He did okay at Everton. He didn't really get a look in, or he's not getting a look in at Leipzig. Now that Leipzig have just signed Sorloth from Crystal Palace, you feel like that could be a catalyst to push Lookman maybe out the door, or am I clutching?
No, I think there could be something to that, because it's just another attacking player. Slightly different position to Sorloth, is a striker, but I think Lookman can play across the front line. It's a weird one because he's not been prolific anywhere he's been, but he's also not got a look in anywhere he's been. So I think it's a bit unfair to. I think it's a bit unfair to put that as a reason why we shouldn't sign him. I think we need another winger. I mean, I personally quite like Cavallero, but he didn't really offer anything on Saturday. Foot champs Cavallero, a few ball rolls, but no real penetration. It was a bit frustrating to watch. Same with Kamara, who for his standards was pretty anonymous on Saturday. So I hope we get a winger, and I would like if it's Lookman, because I feel like he's got something to prove. And like you said, the loan deals with options to buy are very low risk. So if it doesn't work out, we just don't take up the option. One other name, and it's not really been linked too much, but is De La Feu. This is one that I was really excited about, because I think he's a brilliant winger, and I think he's really exciting, and I think he'd give us another dimension in attack. But that seems a little bit clutching at straws, maybe one or two tweets about it. I think Lookman's far more likely, and I'm here for it. I think it would be a good signing.
Yeah, and we must not forget about Anthony Knockaert, Ola Aina, who can play out on the wing. And I actually feel like, because he's so attacking, that if we were to play someone like Dennis Adoy at right back, and then we could whack Alex Tettey out at right wing if we had to, I think he'd actually do a good job. He's got a fantastic whip on him. It's obviously not the first choice option, but if crisis hit, then I would back. Did I say Alexander Tettey? I meant Kenny Tettey. Kenny Tettey to play at right wing. But anyway, a couple of things before we wrap up. I know it's been a little bit of a longer one, but that's because there is more to talk about as the window edges closer to closing. Kevin McDonald has been told that he can leave on a free. Now, this is a man who has 1 year left on his contract, but because his services have been so good to Fulham, and they definitely have, that they'll allow him to leave on a free. I actually don't want him to leave, not because, well, I suppose he would be valuable if we needed another option, if Reed was to get injured or something, but actually because I want him to be a coach at Fulham. I don't want him to go anywhere else. I feel like if he does his coaching badges, he's done his coaching badges, then he should stay and maybe be a number 2 or 3 under Scott Parker. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, it's a bit saddening to see him possibly leaving permanently. I would not be against at all sending him out on loan, because I'm sure he'd still do a brilliant job for a team in the Championship. I still think he's a brilliant player, just hasn't got the legs for the Premier League, I don't think. And I completely agree. I think he's a big voice in the dressing room. He's a leader. You even saw at Wembley when he was just flying down the stairs after the
He fell down
goals.
the stairs.
He was, yeah, literally falling down the stairs, telling everyone to keep their heads. He's still a leader inside the dressing room. And I agree with you that I want him to stay at the club even after he retires, which I don't think will be for another couple of years, I'm guessing. But I would just be a bit disappointed if we let him go permanently. Johansson, on the other hand, is another weird one, because it's sad. It's sort of coming to the end of an era we've had for like the last 3 or 4 years, with that midfield three of those two and Kearney. Johansson, he's a little bit younger, still the captain of Norway, of course. And I think that he might just want some more first team opportunities. I know there's been links to abroad, like Galatasaray and places like that. I just don't know whether these players have a place in the squad anymore. I mean, they weren't even, neither of them were even involved in Ipswich last week in the Cup, which is a bit, sort of says all you need to know about maybe they have been told that their services are better served elsewhere, which is very sad to see. But I would much rather loan them both out and keep them involved at least, rather than selling them.
Yeah, I would agree. I think to keep them on the books at least. I mean, they're both very useful in the Championship, and if worse was come to worse, we do get relegated, it'd be nice to have them around again, even though maybe McDonald's legs have gone a little bit. I think he could probably cut it at Championship level, possibly League One. Well, obviously League One, and possibly Championship level. Joe, before we wrap up, we've got a game tomorrow night, and we'll be finding out if we win that game who we play in the next round. It will be Baggies, West Bromwich Albion, or Brentford. Unbelievable. We've been drawn with either West Brom away or Brentford if we were to beat on the Wednesday, Sheffield Wednesday. Joe, how excited are you the fact that we're playing Sheffield Wednesday on the day of the name of their club?
So excited, obviously. And if it's anything like the last time we played them a couple of months ago, then we're in for a great game.
Yeah, 5-3.
5-3, yeah. I mean, it's a good chance, with no disrespect to Sheffield Wednesday, who've actually had a very good start to the season, other than the points deduction. I think we've got to look at it as an opportunity to get through to what would be the last 16, I believe.
I'd go with it with round 4. I'm not sure how many teams are left. Might be the last.
And with a game against either West Brom or Brentford away, which would be tough, but you could get a lot tougher games at this stage of the competition, when there's a lot of big teams still in there and not too many smaller teams left. But definitely a game that we should be looking to progress. I want us to play a relatively strong team. I'm not saying our first team, but a team that can definitely perform, and maybe a chance to bed in. There's not going to be any new signings by then, but maybe a chance to bed in a defence that will play against Aston Villa, at least in the most part, so that we actually have a bit more cohesion. It seems like it's chopping and changing a bit in the 2 games we played, with Ream playing left centre-back, then Adoy playing left centre-back. It'd be nice for everyone to know their roles. And it would also be a nice chance to see some of the players that we haven't seen much so far this season, such as Knockaert. And hopefully Rodak gets another chance in goal as well.
I'm sure Rodak will probably start on Wednesday against Wednesday. Just before we go, I may watch the game tomorrow, the £10 pass. If I don't, there won't be a match reaction. If I do end up watching the game, which I think I probably will, there'll be the match reaction out tomorrow evening. Joe, finally, it doesn't look like we're going to be going to games anytime soon. The ballot, well, I suppose the ballot will probably be scrapped now until the next time. But Boris Johnson today announcing that another maybe 6 months of this lockdown 2.0. You'd guess that all the games would be on TV then, the way they've done it this month. for the Premier League has been brilliant. It's been like a World Cup. You can watch every game. So how do you feel about that?
With every match being on TV live, obviously it's not the same, and it's frustrating not to be there, but it's the safest thing to do at the moment. And I think it's the best possible alternative scenario. If these are the restrictions that are in place for 6 months, then that takes us to March, I believe. And by that stage, with only a handful of home games left, it's probably not even worth doing the ballot. It's probably worth just waiting until the next season, where hopefully we can see some Premier League football live.
Yeah.
It would be very, very unfortunate to go up and then not being able to see any of our any Premier League progress and be back in the Championship. I'm hoping that's not the case. But one thing's for sure, which is a bit of a relief, that coronavirus won't mean we don't see Messi at Craven Cottage, which I was a bit worried about if he'd have signed for Man City.
Yeah, that was a saga. That's not going to happen. What might happen, though, is we might see a signing before Monday against Aston Villa. Look, we've got a game tomorrow night. Hopefully it's a chance to progress in the League Cup. Joe, thanks very much for joining us. We will speak to you, I suppose, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, after the Aston Villa game.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
And a bit of announcement to make. We do this on Zoom, but actually StreamYard is going to be the new place to record these videos. We get some graphics up on the screen as well, so it makes it more interactive. We might have an extra person join us next week as well, just to add a little bit more conversation. But Joe, thanks very much for joining me.
Yeah, cheers, Jack. Thanks for watching, guys.
No worries. We will see you Wednesday night, tomorrow night. Hopefully we get a win over Wednesday on Wednesday. And come on, Fulham.